Hi, I'm your host, Erica Polsinelli, and welcome to Evolve by Erica, the podcast, where we talk all things spirituality, ascension, health, wellness, and beyond. I'm so excited that you are here. Come on in. Hello, guys, and welcome back for another episode. I'm so excited today because a lot of you sent in questions for a Q&A episode. Sometimes these are my favorite because I feel like we're really connecting and I'm able to target some of the things that are either on your mind or start conversations that maybe I haven't really gotten across in other podcasts. So we're going to get into the Q&A. So I guess we'll just dive right into it. I have to say though, before we go into it, I had this thought of being a projector. And if you're a projector, if you know about projectors, like when I get questions or when I hear how much the meditations are resonating with you guys, or I see your repost of doing the meditations, like nothing in this world makes me more excited because as a projector, we always need to wait for an invitation. And you guys being here is the invitation I need to show up as my most authentic self and express my love, my passion, my gifts. And the same thing for Evolve. For those of you who are signed up as members and you go to the meditations every day, that's my invitation to continue to show up as me, as the me I'm meant to be, as Teja Sita, that my spiritual name really captures. And I thank you for being here. And I thank you for sending in all these questions. And I just thank you for being part of this community. So let's get into it. The first one we're going to start with is manifestation. So the first question is tips about manifestation. I have to say, my version of manifestation has changed so much. And I'm going to take you from the very beginning of manifestation to kind of the layers or levels of it that I've explored and what I like to practice now. But let's start from the beginning. Manifestation to me started as getting clear on what I wanted, writing them down, thinking about them during my meditations, and knowing that I was worthy to receive them. And from there, I coupled it with powerful mantras like the Ekonkar, Sadguru Prasad Ekonkar mantra, which helps us to really amplify any of our thoughts that we're thinking while the meditation or the mantra is playing. And that helped me to manifest my home that we moved into about 6 years ago. And I would just think about what I wanted every day. I would write it down in my journal and I would listen to this mantra while I did it. And I would feel so grateful for what I had presently and what I was so excited to finally receive. And I think that's a really important ingredient of manifestation is finding the gratitude in the now and letting go of it with love and with deep, 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 sincere gratitude and be excited to welcome in something else. From there, my manifestation practice took another chapter where it was, I felt like I manifested everything I wanted at one point, pretty much everything I wanted. And I kind of stopped intentionally manifesting. And I said to the universe, listen, I'm really grateful and happy with everything that I have in the here and now. Could I have more? Of course. But guys, the sneaky little thing about meditation is once you start to dive into it, you start to become so overwhelmed with gratitude for what you have that it puts things into perspective and you actually want less. And what you desire more is true alignment, true fulfillment, true happiness. So that's what I started to experience. And I put it in the universe's hands. Like, listen, I still want to grow. I still want to receive new opportunities and experiences, but I don't know what I want right now. I feel like I have everything I want. Not really sure what I want next. You do you, universe. Just know I'm open, I'm ready, and I trust you. And then from there, I've entered another phase of dreaming up really big dreams and feeling them land within me and expand me and feeling myself embodying the frequency I need to be on in order to receive that, and knowing how worthy I am, knowing that our wildest dreams can literally come true. That, or something literally even better than we can ever dream up, can actually all of a sudden just come and meet us. And getting into that frequency is so powerful. So whether you're actively manifesting, or if you don't really know what you want to manifest and you're pretty content and you just want to continue to manifest all things aligned to you, let the universe know, whether it's something specific or you're just open to receiving, and continue to vibrate at a high frequency. So doing all the things that help you to increase, turn your light up, increase your vibrational frequency, that is going to organically help with manifestation. And I can't wait to hear all the things that you guys manifest. I love getting those DMs too, because it's just incredible to see and to hear. Okay, so the next question is managing mind loops, trusting the plan, and implementing patience when frustrated or when things aren't happening in the way that you want them to. Okay, so there's a lot to unpack here. So let's start with managing mind loops. Our brain gets very comfortable to go on the same loops that it always has. And specifically, negative loops are easier for us because our ancestors were actually, they weren't in this space of thriving. It was more of survival. So they had to think about the things that could go wrong to allow them to actually survive. And we're very fortunate, and we have the privilege of not living that way anymore, where we can actually use our mind to help us expand into our highest version, get it out of survival and into this place of thriving. So I want you to first know that it's absolutely easier to be in a negative mind loop, but having the awareness of it is the first step. And being able to break it is the second step. So this is a lot of the mindset training I did on myself when I wanted to release the negative thoughts about health in the beginning of my journey and the health anxiety that I experienced. So what I would do is when the thought came in, I would literally say, no, that's not happening. That's a thought of fear, and I am not feeding this fear. And I would choose the affirmation that I wanted to bring in. And I started to think about how that would just, on a very basic level, how would that start to change how I feel in that moment? If you go from thinking something really scary and negative to thinking something positive, in that moment, even if this is all you receive, it's not going to be all you receive. But even if it is all you receive, you feel more comfortable. You feel healthier. You feel happier. You have less stress running through your body, less of a cortisol spike. And with enough practice, this helps, but you have to stay on top of yourself. And you have to be on it and ready, armed with an affirmation, ready to go. So that's what I would share about mind loops. For trust and implementation of patience, even when things aren't going as you wish them to or frustrated. So you could do one or two things. You can freak out and you can start to build and create a lot of resistance, thinking about how things aren't going your way. And then you start building that ball of energy, which is absolutely going to attract more things to not go your way, because that's your story. That's the frequency you're giving off. That's what you're saying, and that's what you are affirming. To observer. And I did a whole podcast episode on neutrality and an observer. This is happening. Is it good? Is it bad? You don't know in that moment. You know how it feels. You know how it measures up to the ideal you had in your mind, but you don't know the plan. You don't know what's going to come tomorrow. You don't know what's going to come next year. So you're not sure if it's good or bad in this now moment. And staying neutral and staying an observer helps us become a more expanded version of ourselves. It helps us to eradicate any resistance and allow ourselves to be more in a flow state. And a flow state is a receiving state. If we're not in a flow state and we're creating resistance, we're blocking a lot out and then most likely attracting in more resistance to create or to feel or to experience. So that is what I would say. Patience is difficult, but I think surrendering to the divine plan and really having faith that there is one, and that's not easy. How do you build faith? You have a practice every morning that you tune into. You have time to silence this noisy chatter of the world. You listen less to other people's opinions and perspectives. Of course, there's a time and place where we need that and we value it, but time to turn it off, time to go within and ask the universe, I'm having trouble trusting right now. Can I have a sign? I want to have faith. I want to believe in you. Allow me to see the signs that will support me. And you'll get them, but you have to be on the frequency to receive them. That's for sure. The next question is tips for getting out of your own way and being okay with taking up space and sharing talents to help others. So this goes with another question that I saw on our list of imposter syndrome, I believe. So I'm going to talk about both of these things together. So first, getting out of your own way and being okay taking up space, sharing your talents with others. You are here for a reason and you have a gift to share. I can promise that for each and every single person listening to this podcast. And it can be how you live life, how you make other people feel, or it could be your work, the work that you do, or it could be anything. And it doesn't have to look the way it does for other people, but you have a gift and you're meant to take up space. That's why you're put here. You have a ginormous aura if you wish to activate it and strengthen it. And it's part of your destiny. In order for you to fulfill your destiny, you should tap into that power that you have. And it's yours to take up. By you taking up space, by you tuning into your gifts, by you sharing your talents with others, you're not taking anything away from anyone else. And I'm not sure if that is behind the question. You're adding more light that can possibly and most likely help others find their light. So it's a win-win all around. And I think sometimes it's having the confidence to do that and the knowing to do it. But I always thought in the moments where I could have passed up my Dharma and I could have done what I've always been doing, I thought I have one life experience in this incarnation and I want to do it to my fullest and I want to do what I came here to do. And that helped me to have the confidence to go towards it. And the people who would talk about you or who would possibly mock you or think you can't do it, unfortunately, those are the people that most likely wish they had the courage and the confidence to do whatever it is that they feel they're aligned with. And you, by doing it, will inspire those people as well. And it will help more people step into their light. So your talents are meant to be shared. Your gifts are meant to be shared. And once you get that first taste of it impacting other people and helping other people, oh my goodness, forget it. You're going to be like, oh my gosh, how did I wait this long? I can't wait to share this gift with so many more people. So I hope that inspires you. One question is pretty technical about feeling out of breath when doing most meditations. Will my breathing get better? Okay. So in the beginning of practicing breathwork and meditation, it is definitely something you could experience where you could feel out of breath. You could feel like it's challenging. You could feel lightheaded, and your lung capacity and your breath quality is absolutely going to improve with practice. Just taking things at your own pace, making sure, of course, with your physician that you're well enough to practice any of the breath works we do. Some are much less intense than others. So just making sure that you are able to practice all that Evolve has to offer, finding practices that work well for you. You will absolutely improve. Don't feel like you need to keep up with a cadence, a rhythm, especially what I model on Evolve. You have to find your own. So take time to do that and tune into it. Question about dreams. Do they carry spiritual messages? More about Pleiadians and family of light. I also got questions about the Lumerians, the Atlanteans, Stargates, all the things. So let's dive in deep here. Dreams, do they carry spiritual messages? I think they absolutely can and do. Sometimes my first question I ask myself when I have a dream that seems profound that I wake up with, that could either be like, oh, a little scary, like why did that show up in my dream? Or like, oh my goodness, this showed up in my dream. I'll ask myself, was I thinking about that at all the day before? Because sometimes it's our clearing of the subconscious happens while we dream. So sometimes that can surface. But other times there are things we're dreaming about that absolutely never happened. There were no seeds planted and they're popping up while we're in that dreamlike state. And I do believe they can absolutely carry spiritual messages. And since this person also asked about the Pleiadians and the same message and the family of light, I actually had an encounter with the Pleiadians in my sleep. So I did this was my first and only meditation to connect with the Pleiadians. And that night, just because, I love the meditation practice I have, this was just something I was doing out of the ordinary and I was excited about. So I tapped into this frequency and I went to sleep that night and I woke up in the middle of the night and there were 3 bluish green beams of light in the corner of my bedroom, literally in the corner of my bedroom. And I was like, okay, this is totally a visitation from the Pleiadians. It's not even funny. And if I wake Vinny up right now, I think the energy is just going to like evaporate because he's going to be like, well, what are you talking about? So I consciously was like, when you wake up in the middle of the night and you'll completely forget that you woke up. I was like, Erica, you are up right now. You are seeing this. Do not forget this. And I took it all in. I was like, I'm not forgetting this. And I'm going back to bed. And I went back to bed the next morning. Of course, I remembered because I'm here to tell you about it. So I think interesting things happen when we're in those different brainwave states. I've definitely experienced some interesting things while I was at the Joe Dispenza retreat because his meditations are kind of like, I would say kind of like transy, very different than the typical meditations I teach and practice. And it got me very much in a dreamlike state. And I saw a lot of things and a lot of messages came through. A lot of people came through. So I think, yes, we could definitely receive messages from our dreams. And as for the Lumerians and Atlanteans, I really don't know much about them. I know about the Pleiadians because I feel like I'm connected to them. I feel like I receive messages from them. I think they were a very big part of my spiritual journey without me even knowing what they were. In hindsight, I realize a lot of their teachings align with me. I read Bringers of the Dawn, Family of Light, and it speaks to every fiber of my being. So I know there's a deep connection, but I'm not sure of the other stargates and star seeds. I really don't know much about them. I'm very open to learning as my consciousness expands, and I believe that they can also play a role in my evolution without me even knowing it, just like the Pleiadians did. And then one day I'm going to be like, oh my God, the Lumerians, let's talk all about it. But right now, it's not an area of awareness for me. Okay. Aligned business decisions. This is so important. And you guys know, like I struggle with the word business because this is so much more than a bit. I'm so grateful I'm able to align my purpose with my business and my livelihood. But everything I do has to feel super aligned because my quote unquote business or Evolve is an extension of me and my energy field and my aura. And in order for me to connect with certain people, to partner, to collab, to do meditations, whatever it may be, I have to feel authentic to myself and I have to feel super aligned. And I've done, I don't know, honestly, not very many things that like in hindsight, I was like, that wasn't so aligned. Like maybe like doing a paid partnership and promoting it on my story. I don't know. Like maybe I learned so quickly. I was never really into the partnerships. I've always selected them very, 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 very mindfully and carefully because I'm not going to share and promote anything that I'm not in love with. I love money just like everyone does because money gives us a lot of freedom and helps to create a lot of space in our life and gives us access to more. But I'm not taking money in exchange for my integrity, for my word, and for my authenticity. It's just never going to happen. So anything that I promote on this podcast or in my everyday life on Instagram is really aligned with me, or at least that version of me in that moment. And I think it's so important to make aligned business decisions because it's your reputation and it's how people trust you and how they look at you. And if something's not aligned, the energy is going to be there where it's not aligned, and other people are going to feel that too. And I'm not saying that in a fearful way. That's just how energy works. So listening to your intuition, the more you strengthen your intuition, the clearer things get. I rarely have a very hard decision to make. Very rarely. I know in my body if it's a yes, and I know in my body if it's a no. So activating your intuition, I actually just saw, so I had Mona Vand on the podcast and I listened to her podcast with Gary Vee. I'm like a huge Gary Vee fan, not in the way that like I follow everything he does, but like if I listen to him, he just gets me fired the F up. Like I'm ready to go because I just think he speaks so authentically and speaks so much truth and has a very new age way of thinking. And I heard him on Mona's podcast and he said, I am guaranteeing the next thing that all the businesses are going to be talking about, all the people are going to be talking about is intuition. I have full body chills. And I'm like, yes, Gary Vee, duh. Like, you know it. I'm so glad you know it too. And sure enough, that was, I don't know, maybe that was like 7 to 9 months ago. I listened to that podcast when it came out on Mona's podcast. I think it's called The Core Self. I just saw an Instagram reel of Sarah Blakely, the creator of Spanx, talking all about intuition in business. And I'm like, see, Gary Vee was right. And see, we're right. All of us here know the power of our intuition. That's why we're doing all the things. So the more you stay aligned to your intuition, the more you activate your intuition, the more you quiet the world out and tune into yourself, the more aligned your business is going to get, the more aligned your relationships are going to get, the more aligned you are going to become with what you want to bring in, your manifestations, and the more aligned your visions will be. Everything becomes more aligned. So that is my spiel on aligned business decisions. Don't do anything that does not feel aligned. It is not worth it. But also, if you do, you learn and you grow and you take that and you use that in your next decision. Someone messaged me, how do you deal with all the haters? How do you not let it get to you? I laughed and I was like, wait, do I have haters? Like, do I have haters? Like, no, there's no haters. Because number one, I wouldn't see it as that way. If there was anyone voicing an opinion that felt like that, I'd want to send them a lot of love because I know that person's most likely struggling. If they're taking the time to bring that type of energy to my space, they probably really need some love. And to be honest with you, I was just talking to Hess on the way in, and he was saying, like, we've never encountered a rude or what we feel like was an irrational encounter in Evolve and running Evolve and emails and DMs. It is I could cry. It's such a grateful community that I pinch myself every day. Like, how lucky am I? How grateful I feel to be aligned with all of you who are such grateful beings. So, they don't really exist to me. I guess they're not on my frequency, and we're in this little beautiful evolved bubble and with so much love and so much peace and so much light. And I love you, and I hope it always stays this way. But I do talk to Guru Joss about this sometimes, which will lead me to another question. No, however much love there is for you, the opposite can exist, because that's the law of the universe and that's just the way it is. So you have to be okay with that. And I think as Evolve grows and as the platform grows and as different things come up in our society, there can be room for that type of energy. But I have done so much work that I really believe, of course, it would be very challenging to, hear anything that's not of love. But I think this work really presents us with a powerful perspective, a really strong foundation, and where we put our focus is where our energy goes and where our energy grows. So I'm always going to choose to put it towards the people that have so much love, that come with love and gratitude. So there's that. Okay, so alcohol-free journey is the next question. So this is something I definitely want to talk about. It's very interesting. And some of you may know the story, but my husband struggled with substances and he's 8 years sober, which is amazing. Maybe going on 9. I'm not really sure. But it's September 19th is his date, so it's coming up. So he struggled with substances and he became sober. And around the same time, not exactly the same time, I was still drinking while he was sober, but very shortly after, maybe a year after, I started to practice Kundalini every day, 3 to 5 minutes. And in addition to that, right before, I was drinking every day. I was drinking wine every single night. I would probably estimate 3 glasses. Guys, if you knew me, Hess and I were also just talking about this. Like, if you knew me, you'd be like, what? Like, crazy party animal, never left the clubs, closed them down. I would literally scream, I'm never going home to Vinny. And he'd actually be the one that was a little more normal in those situations and be like, okay, we got to get this girl out of here. Dancing on tables, falling off tables, coming home completely bruised. Like, yeah, old version of myself. So drinking was a really big thing, part of my life. I was 100% a huge drinker. And it was borderline like, do I have control over it? I'm not really sure. Did I ever have one drink? No. Did I have to go away to get help? No. But as I started to bring more prana and more life force in my body and started to actually manage my anxiety with a healthy way of dealing with it through my meditation and breath work, my nervous system started to reset itself. And at the end of the day, I wasn't guided to grab the wine. And I remember this so vividly, guys. I was in my apartment. I remember the chair I was sitting in, and I had dinner in front of me, and I was like, oh my God, I just cooked this whole meal without drinking 1 glass of wine. Usually I would be like 2.5 deep at this point. I'm like, this is so weird, but I drink wine every night. So I'm going to go get the bottle. Like, that's what I do. And that is our habits and our neural pathways that we're used to keeping us the same. And in this moment, I broke it. I poured myself a glass of wine. I took a sip and it didn't taste good anymore. And in that moment, I realized I don't need this anymore. I actually have this under control. I don't feel like I need this to calm me down. I feel calm. I feel good in my body. And so what I want to say is that's what led me to this. And after that, it's not that I never had a sip of alcohol again. I actually recently had, like, I would say a 1/4 glass of wine pretty recently. I move very, very intuitively. That was probably that was the first alcohol I've sipped since maybe like 8 months. And then the time before that would have probably been last summer. So I don't know, maybe I'm averaging maybe a glass a year. I don't know, but I don't count. It's not a thing. It's just like if I'm like, ooh, I'm in the mood to taste that and enjoy that and have that, I will. It's never about getting drunk. It's more about enjoying whatever it is, the taste of it, but I have to be in a very specific frequency and it's intuitive. So I've also heard a lot of dark things about alcohol, and I'm not here to put fear in anyone. I think you need to listen to where you're at in your stage in your life. And that's it. Like, I'm not calling myself sober. I'm not calling myself a drinker. I'm doing whatever it is when I know I'm on the frequency to be able to do it. And that's that. But yeah, so I guess my husband and friends would be like, you stopped drinking because of Vinny. And I'm like, listen, I've always been the most supportive fiance at the time and wife. Absolutely. I support a healthy lifestyle. I used to have to force Vinny to work out with me. Meanwhile, now he's like training for half an Ironman. But it wasn't him. These two things coincided in the most beautiful way, where he got sober, where I got a handle over my nervous system, and I no longer needed alcohol. Obviously, I never needed alcohol, but I thought I did. And I no longer needed that. And I found healthy ways of dealing with stress. So that's a little on that. We have a question about jealousy. And I think this is an amazing topic to bring up because I think it's very much part of our human nature to look at what other people have and then measure ourselves up against it or compare it or think about wanting it and wondering why we don't have it. And I've learned that everything is a chapter. And for you to spend time looking at someone else and not feeling happy about their wins, you're going to feel very silly when it's your season of winning and your season is coming. And that's just a little shift, a mindset shift I've had over the past few years of that topic. Because we all have seasons and we're all connected. I mean, we could go really esoteric with this, but we're all connected. And when someone else is winning, that doesn't mean we can't be winning. And when someone else is winning, I think it's our job and our duty to find inside of us ways to be happy and create that energy for them. 100% be completely selfless and celebrating and loving it for them, because we should want to see other people happy because we would want other people to be happy for us. But also when we celebrate those other people, we're not in a state of lack. We're showing the universe that we trust. We're genuinely happy for what they have, and we know what's destined for us will be for us as well. So I always look at it that way. And I think that jealousy is evidence of what you want, and being able to take that evidence and turn it into a frequency of love, of happiness, of celebration for someone else. And that feels so much better in your body than what jealousy feels like, guys. It feels so much better. And then when you feel better, you attract better and you bring in better. So tapping into that for them and also for you. For them and what they're celebrating right now, and for you and what you're honoring that you like and what you hope to be celebrating one day. Those are my thoughts on jealousy. So we have a question here technical question about meditation. When taking a deep breath after tuning in, do you always squeeze at the root or only when I say to? So lately I kind of been really in it in our live meditations where I'm giving a little bit of less cues at some points because I figure a lot of us are advanced at this point, but if you're a beginner, that's totally fine too. But we tune in with a mantra, and then after we inhale and we squeeze the energy up to allow that energy to rise throughout our system. So you could do that always as long as it feels good. If you're pregnant, you have to check with your doctor if you're allowed to do like that squeezing of the rectum and the lower muscles. So check on that, but otherwise, absolutely. I started doing morning call every Monday AM and loving it. What is so powerful about that chant? Guys, morning call or long echo cars is a chant that is practiced in Sikhism. So Kundalini is not a religion, but there are some chants that overlap. And you may have heard more about this in my podcast with Hadeep. This was interesting. I actually was at a club this past summer for my friend's bachelorette party. And I was talking to someone, and based off the way he was dressed, I had an inkling that he practiced Sikhism. And we started to talk. He was kind of like, oh, what are you doing? Why aren't you dancing anymore? I'm like, listen, it's 1:30. I'm done. I'm tired and I need to go home and wake up early to meditate and chant tomorrow. And he was like, oh, really? And I knew I was about to blow his mind that I knew some of what he practiced. And I was like, do you know what the morning call is? And he was like, oh my goodness. And I thought like how beautiful of a moment. First of all, I was in the middle of a club. The girls I'm with are looking at me like, seriously, like Erica's in a deep conversation again in the middle of a club in the Hamptons. Like, what is going on? And I was like loving every second of it because in my past, I was raised Catholic, and he and I could have seen each other as such different people and different backgrounds and maybe not having a lot to connect on. And my goal in life has been to connect people and connect us to our souls and our higher consciousness. And it just felt so cool to share something of such a high frequency and to show gratitude for him and for what he practices, and then having his respect and not being part of a religion, but practicing this because of the higher consciousness that it allows me to have. It was just this beautiful situation. So let me get into it now. That mantra, which in Kundalini it's called Long Ekonkars, is charging up our solar centers and activating every one of our chakras, connecting us with source energy. So we're coming out of the physical and into this higher state of consciousness, and it gets us right there. So if you guys haven't practiced that yet, I do have that on the app. You can look it up. I think that's a chef's kiss to every single meditation that's available on the app. Like, if I don't do that one morning, I feel it. And when I do it in the morning, holy moly, I feel it. And you feel this cloud of protection, this shield of protection over you, and you're floating through your day. The sounds are great to practice in the morning, charging up each center, expanding your aura, and you become this huge magnet. And throughout your day, I'm telling you, you feel the protection of this mantra that stays with you. So it's super powerful. I would absolutely recommend trying it if you haven't, and it's amazing. This will be our last question. So actually I have two more. The next one was, how did you and Guru Jas become friends? So Guru Jas is a teacher. My friend Christine told me about her. And I guess she kind of felt and sensed that we would connect. And because that's how intuitive friends are. You got to love those intuitive friends, guys. And I had seen what she was putting out. I don't even know. Maybe I saw her Instagram. I felt an instant connection, and I reached out to her about connecting one-on-one, and we gratefully have been able to. And she's been such an amazing source of inspiration for me. I love how I look at her as holy, as just this divine being on the planet, and yet so grounded and rooted. Because talking back about aligned business decisions, there are some decisions that just feel like playing a game, like promoting Evolve. To me, a lot of my higher self is like, girl, you don't need to promote this. The people who need to find the practice are going to find the practice. Those who are meant to be your students and you're meant to be their teacher are going to find you. You don't have to do anything else. And then there's, the human aspect of business where like, I should get myself out there and I should market and I should promote. And she helps me to find the balance. And because in my mind, the more spiritual way is just doing me and allowing it to just come and attracting all of it. And I really believe in that. And she will help and present me with more of the earthly things that I miss. She actually said to me in our one of our last sessions that we had, you don't like to be here. You like to be up there. You need to come here more. You need to get your hands in the soil. You need to plant. You need to garden. You need to be on earth because this is part of your experience. And I literally said to her, can you sell me more on that? Because I'm good. I'm good where I am. And she laughed because she knew, she could see it. But I'm so grateful to have her as a friend, a teacher, and inspiration. And I think ironically enough, I look at her as literally an angel from a higher realm, yet she's so rooted and grounded on earth and has helped me to ground a lot. Okay, last question, and we'll have to do a part 2. My favorite podcast, how you get re-inspired when you're not feeling so connected. So my go-to for reconnecting with myself is definitely chanting, doing the Aquarian sadhana mantras along with the long echo cars, as we said before. But I have to give a shout out to my favorite podcast. My favorite podcast and what inspired me so much was Jordan Younger's podcast, The Balance Blonde, Soul on Fire. She is a reflector in human design. And I'm saying this so humbly, but I have a lot of love in my body and a lot of light in my soul. And when you go to Jordan, she reflects a lot of what lives within you back to you. And that's what reflectors do on this planet. And it's beautiful. And at times she shared it's hard for her because people can come with their triggers and that could be reflected back to her and to them. And it could be hard. But when I listen to Jordan, I look at her, she's literally an earth angel. I believe she's pure light. And when I listen to her podcast, I feel at home. I feel like all is right in the world, that love is the only thing that exists. And she creates that loving 5D space. So she's my number one. And right now, I'll give you my number 2, Ed Milet. Actually, she's spoken a lot about Ed Milet. I tried at the time I wasn't guided to it. And now it was the perfect timing. He started doing these solo short episodes of inspiration. And that's exactly how I was supposed to find him. And when I was supposed to find him, I was meditating one morning. It's been months since I heard his name anywhere. And I got the hit, search Ed Milet right now on Apple. And I was like, okay. I believe one of the episodes I love was the X Factor for Success. A lot of masculine energy, but I have a lot of masculine energy. So it speaks to a lot of what I believe and feel. He is so inspirational to me right now. So I am a huge fan of him. Those are my top 2. I've also been listening to the Skinny Confidential a lot. I love Lauren's solo episode. I'm a big solo episode. Can you tell? I listen to all the solo episodes because I'm like coming for that person. I want their energy. I want to hear what they have to say. Lauren, she's just incredible. And I love her life hacks, running businesses, staying really aligned because she really, really knows she needs a lot of self-care doing all that she does. And she's given me a lot of tips that have helped me so much in Evolve over the past few months. So those are my faves right now. We can chat forever. I just want to thank you guys so much for submitting these questions. There are a ton more, so we will definitely do a part 2 to this episode. And I just want to say I'm so grateful for you being here. I'm so grateful for you submitting these and wanting to chat with me about these and being part of this community, and for all the light you have in your soul, all the light you share with me, and all the light you share with the people that you're in direct contact with. I thank you for that. Thank you so much for being here. I'm wishing you the most blissful and beautiful day. May the long time sun shine upon you. Sat Nam.